Welcome to Under the Lens. Come and enjoy an extraordinary, raw, and unfiltered podcast that delivers debate, discussions, and interviews about film, pop culture, and everything in between. Here is your host, film critic and journalist, Byron Lafayette.
Hey all, and welcome back to Under the Lens. You are listening to episode 2 of our Strange New Worlds season 2 retrospective. Joining me for this episode is Jordan Morris. If you had been listening to the previous episode 1 of this retrospective, you'll recognize him. So he's joining me again as we delve a little bit more into what made this season so special. So we are going to be talking about some of the themes of this episode, some of the best episodes, and just what we liked, maybe a little bit of what we didn't like, but I doubt there's going to be a lot of that because I know if you've listened to the previous episodes, you know we really, really like this season. So so let's jump right in here of just kind of what we thought were some of the standout episodes, maybe what some of the weaker ones were, and we'll go from there. So Jordan, do you want to start us off? What were some of your favorite episodes for this season?
Oh, boy. So I have to say, I'm probably going to, very much so. I think I'm going to have to say my favorite is probably the musical episode because I just found it absolutely delightful. And because we've never had a Star Trek musical episode, it's the first of its kind. And every song, I sung it for like 2 weeks afterwards. It just fit in with the story. I don't know. I felt much more endeared to the cast after watching it.
You know, it's very interesting that you say that because the way I felt, it was funny. Like I was actually dreading the musical episodes. Like when I heard about it, I thought, oh no, they're doing a musical episode. Because like I'm not the biggest fan of musicals. You know, there's some that I really do like and stuff, but I was just like, oh man, you know. And then I watched that episode and it completely won me over. Like I absolutely loved it. It was just, it was like you said, it was just delightful. You know, I loved that there was a very real Star Trek story that actually went through the entire episode. Like it wasn't just, oh, characters are going to burst into song, you know, like they gave a scientific reason for why they were bursting into song. Our characters actually had really large plot, what you could say, like plot movement, I guess you could say, for their character storylines, you know, in this episode. You know, we saw them move forward. It was incredible. It was very well done.
Oh, absolutely. And you make a great point about musicals. Sometimes they're great. Like my favorite episode of Scrubs is the musical episodes.
That's a great.
That's like, people talk about Buffy. I've never really watched Buffy, so I can't relate to that. But I'm like, the Scrubs episode is like top tier for me, the musical, and this one is pretty much on par.
Oh, that's actually funny that you mentioned Buffy. I'll have to send you. I've only ever seen one episode of it, and it was actually for an article for a website that I was writing that I asked people. I said, I'm going to watch any episode of Buffy that you recommend. I said, having never seen anything, and I'm going to write a live reaction article about it. And so all these people recommended this specific, apparently extremely lore-centric episode, and I did a reaction article to it, and I guess as people said it was hilarious, not, you know, with me going into it, so I'll have to send that to you. You'll probably get a kick out of it.
Oh, please do. That sounds great.
Oh, let's see. I'm trying to think like what my favorite episode was of this season, because there wasn't a bad episode overall.
No, not at all.
It was really the difference between good and great, I would venture to say. I want to say, I think my favorite episode probably, I think Among the Lotus Eaters was my favorite, where they lose their memories. I really actually, you know what? Oh man, just looking through these episodes, I just have to correct myself because I keep seeing all these great episodes that I'm remembering.
I've got it pulled up here and I'm having to go through them too, because it's even almost to the point, like, because like, you know, you have a musical episode, you have one that's sort of you have a courtroom drama episode. You've got almost elements of horror in the finale. Like, what genre do you even prefer?
Exactly. It's like, it's so difficult. Like, I think maybe, I think I'd have to revise. Like, I really love, the Lotus Eaters. It was a fantastic episode. But I think if I had to choose the one I maybe enjoyed the most is probably the 21st Century Earth, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow with Leon.
Good choice.
I just think it was so well done. I loved the callbacks, to Khan and to the previous, shows. And I just think I loved what they did with their characters. It was unexpected and it was interesting. So I think I'd have to say that's my favorite, maybe.
Now you're making me question about if I should. Is that one, like we talked about in the previous episode, like not only just the character interactions and the emotion behind it, but like the amount of like how that affects the lore and timeline was just epic.
Mm-hmm. It really was, because as we mentioned in the previous episode, this particular show, I mean, I would venture to say this is one of the most important episodes of Star Trek probably in the franchise, because of the rules that it lays out going forward and going back. I mean, because we mentioned how this basically gives us the tools to fix any plot hole that exists in Star Trek, basically, which I think is an extremely significant moment in the franchise.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And like, I feel like this is setting up to be an anchor episode for like there's so many like future storylines that can just even come out of this episode. Like, this is not only, it's very important for what you just said, and it could become even more important depending on where the show goes in the future.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Because, this has ramifications for Kirk, because he now knows that there was an alternate version of himself. Is he going to start getting memories from that universe? We don't know, we now know more about Leon, that she has some type of abilities that she's inherited from Khan. Is that going to come back later? Her seeing this maybe happier version of herself, that she's lived, is that going to contribute towards, maybe what I mentioned of a theory of her becoming more villainous later? We don't know. So like you said, this could end up becoming one of the most important episodes of Strange New Worlds, depending on where they go.
Most definitely. I will say another highlight in Charades, when Spock becomes fully human, like when Spock smells bacon, that was just so funny.
Oh my gosh. Like Charades, I love that episode. Like, it was, because it's funny, because when it comes to Star Trek, Star Trek has a lot of comedic episodes throughout every show. There's always been comedic ones. Some of them are really good. Some of them are not so good. This was one of the ones that was very well executed. It was very funny. And yeah, him smelling and just gorging on bacon is just so funny. And then like the other moment when like he sees his ears are gone and he starts screaming and then it cuts away, was just so funny. Oh my gosh.
It's so funny.
Oh,
and like, because Vulcans, I don't know if you recall from Enterprise, like deep cut here, because Vulcans think humans stink, so they take nasal suppressants.
Yes.
So they don't smell. They don't smell, or they just try to suppress that. And then Vulcans are like, their whole edicts shtick is basically like they don't eat meat. They're all like vegetarian, vegan. And then Spock's just like, within like 2 hours, he's completely obsessed with bacon and gorges himself to the point of getting sick.
Oh, it was so funny. And just like, the whole idea of him having to try and fake being a Vulcan, and just like, oh my gosh, it was so well done. And I loved his fiance's father, his future father-in-law. And
he was great.
He was great because I loved this idea of a Vulcan who kind of wants to be extra, but knows he can't be in his society. It was so funny. Oh man. That was definitely a standout, I think, for this particular season. Very much enjoyed it. Let's see, I'm trying to think of another one that You know what? One that we definitely, I think, need to talk about, especially for people who like Lower Decks, is the episode 7, Those Old Scientists, which, for those who don't know, was the crossover between the animated comedy show Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. A lot of people were very nervous about this because, it's a show, it incorporates animation as well. It's very interesting. It was directed by Star Trek veteran, of course, Jonathan Frakes, who has directed tons of new Trek, and of course was Will Riker. So what did you think, Jordan, of this episode? Were you uneasy about it going in, or were you excited about it?
So I wasn't quite sure about the idea. I watched Lower Decks.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I'm as big of a fan as probably you are. There are some moments it's so clever, and then sometimes I'm dying, and then they tend to take it just a tad too far. But I will say the last season and the season 4 so far, I'm enjoying a lot more because the whole bit with that show. I'm like, I felt like they were making fun of Star Trek at first, and then I had to realize no. It's just a comedic take on Star Trek, but I thought they actually nailed it with a crossover. They didn't rein it in, isn't the right word, but they didn't go too far over the top. I think, like we mentioned in the previous episode, when Jack Quaid ad libs the Riker over Pike's saddle, I'm dying, and it was brilliant.
I loved how much of a deep cut that was, for fans like us who know exactly what it was. It was hilarious. Oh, I was dying laughing at that point as well.
I would not mind. If they wanted to do a future crossover, I would not be opposed at all.
I definitely wouldn't either. The only thing about it that I pondered and was wondering about is I actually didn't mind the mixture of animation with live action. I thought they did it pretty well, and it was pretty clever. There was a part of me that did kind of wish that even the Lower Deck scenes would have been in live action, because I would have been very interested to see that whole cast interacting in live action, like in the beginning, before they go through the portal.
I would have been down for that.
Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing that I would have maybe potentially changed is that. But overall, though, I think the episode was well executed. As you said, they reined it in a little bit, where the Mariner and Boimler are not quite as over the top as they are in Lower Decks, which I think was a wise choice. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, and I think they had a decent storyline running through it as well. What would you say? Is there any episodes here that you would say were maybe on the weaker side that maybe you felt could have been better?
Overall, if I had to pick a weakest one for this season, it's probably, is it Lost in Translation? The Nebula aliens contacting Uhura. It was, and again, it is not a bad episode at all. It just seemed a little maybe disjointed. They crammed a lot in there. You've got Kirk, Uhura, Kirk meeting Spock for the first time, getting over the grief of Hemmer. It was a lot packaged in one episode, and it maybe was a bit too much.
I would agree with you on that. I probably would place that one at the bottom of the list as well, because, like you said, it's not a bad episode. It's very interesting, learning, kind of more of what's going on inside of Uhura's head, which, I very much appreciated this show kind of, delving more into her character. But yeah, I do think, the idea of like these, terrifying hallucinations and all this different stuff was so very interesting, but I felt like, for me at least, there wasn't enough of a payoff kind of to everything. Like I didn't fully buy, that Pike would destroy this massive, huge Federation, project just off of the word of one crew member. I didn't fully buy that. I kind of wish that if they were going to go in this storyline direction, that they maybe would have had a little bit better of a tie up, I guess you could say, of the ending, maybe made it a little bit more cohesive, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think you nailed it. I actually had forgotten Pike blew up the station. It just sort of seems. I was like, that's why they have a tractor beam. Just tow it away from the nebula. I mean, it's not rocket science, and that would be easy for them anyway. The other issue I sort of have with that one, the B plot of that of that episode with Pelia and Una was a little. It was a little weak, where Una had Pelia as a instructor at the academy and didn't do well in her class, and that was sort of, they tried to play it up for comedic effect, and it just didn't really hit.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely agree. Yeah, because it almost felt like they felt the rest of the episode was too dark and too serious, so they needed like a comedic plot line going through. But I agree with you; it didn't really land fully for me. And I actually enjoy Pelia. I think she's a funny character. And I've kind of enjoyed her appearances that have popped up. But yeah, that was definitely not one of season 2's best B plots.
And actually, Pelia was somebody we didn't even get to touch on in the last episode. I'm all for more Pelia. I've enjoyed her. Her whole backstory about she's basically ageless is really interesting. And again, like we've said before, they could go so many different ways. Give you another deep cut. Do you recall, I believe it's Requiem for Methuselah in the original series, where they meet Flint, who's basically been all these great people throughout history, and I'm like, is he the same type of alien Lanthanite that she is? Like, this could be very interesting. Is she going to pop up? I think she could pop up in Discovery for all we know.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, she could pop up basically in any time frame, in any future show. That's very interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, but no, that's true. Like her, the idea of like an ageless alien kind of being part of the crew is so interesting, because she's seen all of the victories, failures, of the Federation. She's seen every mistake. She's seen all of this different stuff. And what is that like for somebody like that to be seeing basically probably the crew making mistakes she's seen other crews make 100 times before,
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm with you. I'm definitely all in for more Pelia. I think it could be very interesting character to delve more into later on. And kind of speaking of semi-comedic characters, honestly, one character who I felt was missing from this show that I was disappointed at was Mud. I was disappointed that we didn't see him pop up again this season.
Yeah, Mud has been, I'm surprised it's been so long since we've seen Mud. Mud would have added, they made him too menacing in his first little bit in Discovery, but then they sort of, you could see him trending to the classic Harry Mud. He would do well. And I was actually really surprised we didn't get to see Cybok this season.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you brought Cybok up. I had made a note about that earlier, and then I completely forgot about it. I was very surprised about that as well, because I can't remember which episode they teased him in season 1, but it definitely felt like he was being teased as a character to come in. Like it wasn't just a blink and goodbye, Easter egg. So yeah, he was definitely one that I was surprised that they did not bring into season 2 in any way. Him and Mud were two characters that I was expecting to show up, that I was surprised at their absences.
Hopefully season 3, season 4, I have a feeling we'll see them again. It's just a matter of when rather than if.
Exactly. I feel like, for those maybe who didn't see it, as Jordan said, Mud was kind of showcased as kind of, sadistic and menacing in Discovery, which I think was just kind of part of, those first 2 seasons of Discovery, kind of having that grim, dark, feel. But then they did do a short trek with the character where he was very much going back towards, his classic comedic self that he was in the original series. And for anyone who's seen that short trek, that version of Mud could easily exist in Strange New Worlds very, very easily.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think they are definitely going to be back at some point. it'll be interesting to see when. I'm fully expecting Cybok to be back in season 3. Because I can't imagine they would wait longer after that tease. But very, very interested to see what direction they go with him.
I wonder if that's how they bring T'Pring back in season 3. Cybok's escaped, and maybe she has to get Spock to help her track him down.
Oh, that would be interesting.
That literally just thought about that, but yeah, that would work perfectly.
That would work perfectly because we would not only get, the storyline of Spock and his brother, obviously, but we would also kind of get that continuation of him with T'Pring, which we were kind of left on a bit of a cliffhanger in the sense of not knowing, how that's going to turn out. So yeah, that would be a great way to bring him back. And I can just say too, I'm very happy that they're actually going to be bringing Cybok in, because as many problems as The Final Frontier has as a movie, Cybok I felt was a great character. He was such a fascinating villain, and I thought very well played by the actor, and I really liked him. And so I'm glad that we're going to actually get to see a little bit of redemption for that character after the 5th movie.
I'll be curious to see who they cast him. Just another fun fact: it's actually the guy who plays him, Lawrence Luckinbill, is Lucille Ball's son-in-law.
Really? Oh, that's fascinating.
He's married to Lucy Arnaz, her daughter.
I did not know that. Oh, that is fascinating. And that's even weirder considering Lucille Ball's role in getting Star Trek onto the small screen.
Exactly. It's just literally full circle.
Oh, that is really fascinating. Oh, I would love, that's actually one thing that I would love to see with Strange New Worlds in future seasons is I'd love to see, like actors like Lickenby, more actors like that coming in cameo roles, like not as the characters they played before, but in like new ones. I think it'd be really kind of fun Easter eggs to have in there.
Oh yes, absolutely. I wish they had been able to pull it off, but she wasn't in the best of health. When they referenced Uhura's grandmother in season 1, I was really hoping we would just get a brief clip and it was Nichelle Nichols and they would just be like talking via like video chat.
That would have been amazing, or at the very least even show like maybe a holo picture or something like that. That would have been really, really great.
I would love it if in the next season, if like maybe she finds out her grandmother's passed and there's a picture and it's Nichelle Nichols, like that would be not only an amazing tribute, but just like, I don't know. I think everybody would love it. I know I would, and I'm sure you would as well.
I would love that, because that's one thing I've always appreciated with Star Trek is I love that they bring back various actors in different roles. I've always, it's really fun, like trying to spot who they are and stuff. But yeah, I would love if they did something like that. With various actors from the different shows. That'd be really cool. I have enjoyed the various, that reminds me like some of the Easter eggs, some of the Easter eggs to like Picard and other ones that they put in there. So I'm all for more Easter eggs loaded in there.
I mean, you could get Shatner to come back as Kirk and Sam's grandfather. Ooh. That would be,
that would be awesome, and I feel like Shatner would do it too. It's like
absolutely
come back for a while.
Or I don't know, if you have to go back to Vulcan, maybe Adam Nimoy shows up as a cousin of Spock or something. That would be kind of cool. We could go on for hours. There's so many. Speaking of Easter eggs, just fun little things. I'm so glad the Klingons look like Klingons again.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up.
It's just like it adds such a layer of, not only it just feels better like continuity wise, but it's like it feels like it connects it more to classic Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because I was one of the ones who was very fiercely opposed to the design of the Klingons in Discovery. I did not like it. Thankfully they kind of improved them a little bit in season 2, so that it wasn't quite so bad. But yeah, I am so glad that Strange New Worlds has been able to find a happy medium where the Klingons still have a slight resemblance to Discovery, so they don't look completely out of place, but at the same time we're going back to the TNG look, which I very much appreciated. And thank God Worf had the TNG look in season 3 of Picard. Oh,
That would not have gone over well if he didn't.
I feel like the fans probably would have burned down Paramount Studios if he would have come in with a disco mask on.
I agree. And who knows, you and I might have been in there with him.
We probably would have been in there. Yes. We would have been leading it. Oh. So yeah, I'm very glad you brought that up. Like the Klingons I thought were handled very well this season. And I had been waiting for Klingons to come into this show. I wondered how they were going to do it because of Discovery. And I'm glad that they didn't overthink it, that they just, changed up their appearance, listened to the fans and made them better.
It was great seeing them look like that. And then the D7 in episode 1, you get to see basically the modern interpretation of the classic Klingon ship.
Yes. That was awesome. Oh, and I really like too that we're going back a little bit to seeing, the Klingon combat, seeing, I loved, we talked about this a little bit last episode, but in, what was the episode title? It was, Under the Cloak of War, the one with the Mbenga and the ambassador, that I loved that we went back a little bit to seeing how the Federation trains in Klingon martial arts. Like we saw that a lot in TNG and some of the later shows. So I appreciated that they brought that back as a great Easter egg in Strange New Worlds.
They name drop like a batleth in that scene when they're training, if memory serves, don't they? Or am I totally remembering wrong?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I feel like they do. Because I know that Mbenga has a bunch of Klingon weapons on the wall, and I feel like there is a batleth there. I'm trying to remember. I'd have to go back and check, but I feel like there is a reference to it in there.
I think you're right. I know there's like 3 references. I don't know if they say something about like the Worf's Makbara, or not Worf, but Worf practices Makbara, which is either one of the martial arts or meditations or something. There's a couple of really deep cut references in their dialogue or in the background if you pay enough attention, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah, because that's what I love about like Strange New Worlds, is that it has the content for like really dedicated fans to spot stuff, but it's also extremely accessible for like people who aren't the biggest Star Trek fans or haven't followed the lore that much.
Exactly. Like, we can enjoy it because we're big fans, but somebody watching it for the first time, that's not it. They're not going to catch that, but it's not going to like negatively impact how they view the show. They can still enjoy it for what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's just a great jumping on platform for Star Trek. I feel like they've done such a great job with Strange New Worlds in these first 2 seasons.
Oh, absolutely. Because like, for years I've been trying to get my mom into Star Trek, and she's never been the biggest fan. Like I've tried very hard with various shows and everything. And it's quite funny. She calls the Ferengi in Deep Space Nine the rats. It's really funny.
She's not wrong.
No, she's not wrong. Yes. And so it's funny. But what was funny was, she actually got into it a little bit more with the first 2 seasons of Discovery. And then, she's really liked Strange New Worlds as well. And so it's funny, like, I'll mention the deep cut references to her and stuff, but she still is able to follow the story very easily, even not knowing, about this reference to, to the original series or whatever. So I definitely do appreciate that very much with the writers and showrunners. Now, how do we feel, the one, we mentioned it very briefly of the season finale, Hegemony, definitely has a lot of horror aspects to it and stuff. Like, how did you feel about it as a season finale?
It's been so long since we had a proper like season finale, as like all of Picard has been like, each season's almost like a standalone story. So when the season ends, we're just, okay, we're going to pick up somewhere completely different. So it's been, other than like maybe when Discovery went to the future is the last like big season finale we had. And even so, that was sort of, it kind of just, it was resetting Discovery for what it is. And so I really enjoy it. And it's great because it hooks you in and it makes you want to come back for more. But you also get to that point, you're like, no, you can't leave me hanging. I need I remember seeing an article from Best of Both Worlds came out in May or June of 1990. And Patrick Stewart was talking about, he was driving along Pacific Coast Highway in California, and he comes to a red light. He's in his convertible, and there's a family in the car beside him, and they look and they recognize him. And as the light changes, the mother leans over and goes, "You have ruined our summer," and then they speed off.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
And I kind of want to tell the producers that, but like they didn't ruin it. But I'm like, you're killing me here. Like I'm just
it's true, and especially with streaming shows taking longer, to get the next season out. It can be very, very frustrating. Like I appreciated the very Trek nature of it, of like best of both worlds and all of that, of the season, basically a part 1 and 2 episode, and the finale is part 1. So I appreciated that, but at the same time, I was just like, I was the same way. I was like, oh man, like I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan or not, but there's this one moment in Seinfeld where Jerry is talking about how when you're watching a movie or you're watching a TV episode and you get to the point where you look at your watch and you realize they don't have enough time to wrap this up. I'm not going to get the ending to this. And that was how I felt watching Hegemony. I was like, I suddenly looked at the runtime and I was like, they're not wrapping the story up.
Same thing happened to me. I'm not a huge Seinfeld fan. I've seen the Wrath of Khan episode, and I've seen a few. I saw the one where George gets confused for like the leader of the neo-Nazis and like inadvertently gets kidnapped or something. Like that was funny.
That was a funny one.
But I mean, I remember sitting there, I'm like, how are they gonna, like, we got like 10 minutes. Like, how are they gonna? And I'm like, when they got to the bridge, I'm just like, no.
They're doing it. It's like,
And
but
I'm glad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go for it.
I'm glad we're getting more 2-parters, like, because we got a few in Discovery, but we really haven't gotten any in Strange New Worlds or any of the other shows. Not many, at least. And it's like no, it's like crap.
No, it's very true. I am very happy to see that because old Trek was very had lots of part 1 and 2s. So I'm definitely appreciative of them going back to that. But it's like it definitely, like you said, with Picard, all 3 of those seasons kind of being bookended, with a beginning, middle, and conclusion. And even Discovery being very much that way as well. I definitely didn't expect it. With this, and because I mean, even season 1 of Strange New World ended pretty closed-ended, so definitely it is hard, for the wait, but besides the cliffhanger ending, like how did we feel about the Gorn, in this episode? Because this is really the first time that we kind of saw them in all of their new redesigned glory, and they're very much xenomorph, xenomorphness.
They were terrifying, and it's like they move so fast; they're hard to hit. And I just I like the direction they're going with them. I'm curious to see this whole, like, how the solar flare as I almost wonder if like the solar flare like has them in heat and they're expanding to find a new breeding planet or something. Like totally just spitballing here, but it's I don't want them to kill Captain Patel. I really don't.
Oh, I know. I really don't want that either. Because, like, weirdly enough, like, I literally did not care about her character at all in season 1. And I actually started to care about her now in season 2.
Exactly. I'm like, no. I'm like, Pike's going to have a rough, like, go of it in a few years. Like, please let him be happy till then,
Exactly. I really hope that they do have some kind of good conclusion to that, because I definitely love the horror aspect that they brought to the Gorn. Like you said, they're terrifying. The idea of them laying eggs inside of people is just horrifying. So it's like I've enjoyed, like, I loved the whole idea of them going down to that planet, and the planet is like basically Main Street, USA.
That was great.
It was great. Like, I remember when they went down there, I was like, oh, this is an odd choice. But I was like, oh, this is perfect for like alien infestation, X-Files, meets Twilight Zone. I was like, this is great.
Let me ask you this. How did you react at the Scotty reveal? Because I'm sitting there, I'm like, what's got them? Oh no. And as soon as the actor spoke, I knew exactly who it was.
I was the same way. As soon as I heard that accent, I realized it. I was honestly very surprised. I did not think that we were going to get any more legacy characters revealed in season 2. So I was definitely very shocked and surprised. But I liked the actor who played him. I thought he did a good job. Like you said, the age difference with Kirk was a little strange, but overall not really anything canon breaking or anything immersion breaking. Definitely, it's going to be a little hard getting used to a new Scotty after Simon Pegg, for all the years of the Kelvin universe. But overall, in his single appearance so far, I liked the actor who played him. I thought he did a good job.
I did too. I really liked it. He seemed to have Scotty's wit and charm down. And like you said, like I talk about like not expecting that at all, and I'm like, wait, what? But like how they brought him in, and only Scotty could figure out a way to get out of that. So why did you get away? It's like, oh, I just pretended to be one of them. Well, how did you do that? You haven't figured it out? I'm like, yep, this is Scotty.
Is absolutely Scotty. And that was one thing that I really did appreciate so much, was that I love that when they do bring in these legacy characters, that they are fully in service to the story. That's what I've enjoyed so much about Strange New World. Like, this isn't just like a nostalgia bait. Oh, look, it's Scotty. Oh, you get to meet Scotty. It's like, oh no, he actually serves a very important role in this finale. Much the same way it's like, oh, we meet Khan. It's like, oh, it's not just like, oh, woohoo, look, it's Khan. It's like, no, it's actually a very large moment in Leon's, character progression. So I've very much appreciated that.
Oh, absolutely. Same here. And now I'm sure we're both expecting the rest of the legacy cast or characters to show up. I have to say the casting director is doing a top-notch job, and I'm really curious to see, like, McCoy I think is probably going to be the hardest one.
I agree.
Because you're going to have to get Carl Urban, if you're listening, like, I'm totally okay with that.
Honestly, I would be fine, bringing Carl Urban over, and just dressing him a little different, maybe a little different hairstyle, whatever, changing him up. But he played that character so well. It's like, what was it from Marvel when they brought this J.K. Simmons over to be J. Jonah? It's like, yep, just do the same with Carl Urban. I'm fine.
Yeah, it's just yeah. I remember reading something when Leonard Nimoy was filming his scenes in the first J.J. Abrams Trek. When he saw Carl Urban play McCoy the first time, he was moved to tears because it reminded him so much of DeForest Kelley.
Oh, wow.
Which, again, like, I'm like, you can't really get much better of a compliment, for portraying an existing character, a new, fresh take on it. So I'm curious to see where they go there. I mean, because I think we're basically, what would you say, around half the TOS cast we've already met.
Yes.
So it's what? Chekhov, McCoy, Sulu.
Trying to think of the other ones. Those are the main ones that we have left.
Other than some of the secondary ones, like we've met a good chunk of them.
We really have, yeah. And it's like, that actually reminds me and you would know more about this than me with the timeline aspect. A legacy character that I would love to see come back, and you can let me know if it's possible or not. I would love to see Captain Archer show up. Is he still alive in this time period, or is he gone by now?
So first off, great question and great segue. So the beauty of this is there's no real official timeline. There's certain books that say this. There's certain other things. The main thing I hear is basically he was there when the Enterprise NCC 1701 launched. He was there for the launch and he died the next day.
Okay.
But there's nothing concrete about that. So if he's still alive, if Trip Tucker is still an agent for Section 31 after 100 years, like T'Pol's the easiest one, obviously, but like I would love an Enterprise like connection somewhere, or maybe the old crew is all still alive and we get to see them. There is one, the only one, and this is easily retconned away. Do you remember back in the Enterprise two-parter where they go to the mirror universe with the Defiant.
Yes, that was a great episode.
Supposedly, and this, I did not find this, I read this, because this is even too deep of a cut for me. Someone pulled up, like, when Empress Hoshi Sato is looking at her Prime Universe counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
Her Prime Universe counterpart was killed on, oh my God, what's the name of the planet? It's Kodos the Executioner, when Kirk was a kid, and he and Kevin Riley witnessed Kodos the Executioner execute half the population so the other half would survive. Apparently, she was in the half that got executed.
Oh.
Which I'm like, it's literally in the background. It's someone literally freeze framed it and zoomed in like 200%. So we can just pretend that didn't happen, and we can bring everybody back from Enterprise.
Oh, that would be like, I would love to, because like I said, I have my issues with Enterprise, but overall, like, I really love the cast. And, they gave it their all. We got some really good stories over the course of that show. And it never really got, it never really got a great send off. It's like Terra Prime was a great, season finale, but we never got that good series finale, because, we like to pretend that These Are the Voyages does not exist. And so it's like, I would love to be able to see those characters come back, for some type of return. Like you said, preferably the whole cast, or at the very least, like Archer, would be great to see him, even if it was, I don't know. I mean, even if it was just some type of, hologram portrayal, or some type of video presentation of him or something, it would be great to have him back.
What's really interesting is, there's been a couple of callbacks in the last few seasons of the new Star Trek shows that makes me think something's, it's either being discussed or something's in the works. In the whole, in the Lower Decks crossover, they talk about, they have that piece from the original Enterprise installed on the current Enterprise. Then in season 4 of Discovery, which I'm pretty sure you haven't watched, but there's a scene in one of the early episodes. They talk about the building of Archer space dock, and the Enterprise theme plays for like a solid minute or something. Like,
interesting.
And I'm like, okay, you're giving a lot of shout outs to Enterprise, which again, here for completely, but I'm like, are we going to see an Enterprise like main character show up? Because it just seems so perfect.
It really does, because like you said, there has been a lot of references to it, and I feel like it really does fit in the sense because, I feel like Enterprise is one of those shows that has really gained more of a following since it was canceled. I feel like way more people appreciate it now than they did when it was airing. Most fans that I've seen now who've revisited it have been like, oh man, this actually isn't quite so bad. And like, honestly, before Strange New Worlds came out, Enterprise was the show that I recommended people start with who were brand new, had never seen Star Trek before. Then I was like, if they'd never seen anything, I was like, this is kind of a good mix of action, story, whatever. And I was like, and then, I would tell them, then go to TNG, and see that next. But, of course, Strange New Worlds has now taken that spot of recommending to new people. But yeah, like I feel like it would be a good show to bring back right now with kind of the goodwill it has. And also, I mean, let's face it too, bringing back older Star Trek actors can sometimes be expensive on the show budgets. I feel like the Enterprise crew would be a lot cheaper to bring back.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't want to say they're not well known because they were on Star Trek, but like some of them are not going to cost what it cost them to bring Patrick Stewart back for Picard. It wouldn't be, and we wouldn't have to necessarily even bring them all back at the same time. Maybe Admiral Reed is a disapproving admiral who does an inspection at Earth Space Dock, sort of like McCoy did in the Encounter at Farpoint of TNG. We could do little bits and pieces and sprinkle them here and there. That would be a lot of fun. And I totally skipped over probably one of the biggest Enterprise references. Fleet Museum, Picard season 3.
Yes.
And not only is it we get to see the NX-01, we get to see, they canonize the refit NX-01 where it's got the deflector dish and like the engineering hull on the bottom.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, I mean, Harry, if they decide they want to bring an Enterprise back for a season 5 or like just bring the whole show back, like shut up, take my money. I'm set.
Honestly, I would be very much in favor of a season 5. I'd be very much, I mean, hey, and honestly, I mean, look, we're getting a Section 31 streaming movie. We could get an Enterprise streaming movie, honestly. Like they could say like, hey, we're bringing him back to basically do a series finale, as a streaming movie, and people would be on board with it. I certainly would,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or do something with the Earth Romulan War. Like there's so many possibilities.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
go ahead. No, you're good.
I was just going to say, like you mentioned the Earth Romulan War, we could do a trilogy of streaming movies about that and bring back the Enterprise, crew, and and it would be great. It'd be a reboot while also, bringing back that nostalgia of the old show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm getting excited.
There's so many different options, and I think like Strange New Worlds has opened up so many doors, for so many things to show up. And it's just one of the reasons, honestly, that I love the show, but now as we're getting close to the end of the episode here, what would you say, Jordan? Like, was there any like final thoughts, standout moments, things that you'd like to call out about Strange New World season 2?
I pretty much loved every minute of it. I could sit here and talk till the cows come home. About what I loved. I feel like we've done a good job covering everything. I'm ready for them to get this writer's strike worked out because I need more Strange New Worlds in my life.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I had a great time with the entire series, loved it. And yeah, I'm the same way. Let's get the strike worked out so that we can get started, because I feel like Strange New Worlds has had such bad luck with COVID, and then now the writers strike, like, the showrunners and the writers are all ready to start pumping out these seasons, so it's like, yeah, I want season 3, I want season 4, season 5. I want them to be coming quickly because I love these characters, and I love spending time with them. And the show's done a fantastic job of creating a lived-in world.
Absolutely.
Not every show is able to do that. And Strange New Worlds absolutely has. So. What would you say, Jordan? I think I know your answer, but on a scale of 1 to 10 review for this season, what would you give it?
Oh, that's a good question. Don't want to be that guy who gives everything a 10. Mm-hmm. I would say I'd probably give it a 10. I will say I'm a little biased. I would probably rate Picard season 3 a little higher, but it's not even so much in terms of it's better than the other. Strange New Worlds is like the new friends you've just met, and you're starting to get to know them and really develop your friendships. Whereas like Picard season 3 was like, these were the long lost family members I never thought I'd get to all see together again. And I actually did. So, I mean, I wouldn't ding it at all. I mean, like we talked about, we thought the weakest episode was Lost in Translation. And, even on a bad day, I might give it like a 6 or probably a 7 overall. So if your floor is a 7 out of 10, then I mean, I think they nailed it. They just need to keep doing what they're doing and crank out more seasons.
Absolutely agree with you. I tend to lean the same way as you, of like giving it a 10 out of 10, just because, like I said, there wasn't anything bad. Like even what would be quote unquote bad, the season was still good. It's like, so yeah, I would say I would give it a 10 as well. They just, like you said, need to keep doing what they're doing, creating these great character moments, these great scripts. And, I think, I'm sure once the show airs its series finale, whenever that is, and we do a episode retrospective, looking back over the whole series, I feel it's safe to say that this probably will be remembered as one of the best Star Trek shows that's ever been made. I think there's a possibility it could even be, kind of up there near TNG at the end of its run, if it continues with the same level of quality.
So if we ever get to do another episode where we actually rank the shows, I'll give a little hint. Mm-hmm. If I were ranking today, it's really hard to top TNG and then TOS because TOS is the granddaddy of them all, and we wouldn't have anything without this. And TNG revolutionized it, but honestly, I would probably put Strange New Worlds number 3 of all the Star Trek series. It's that good.
Honestly, I can't disagree with you because it is an excellent, excellent show. And, and for everybody listening, some of you might be thinking, oh, they're just fanboying over it, but honestly, if you haven't seen it, go watch it because it is honestly as good as we were saying. I don't normally oversell things like that, but it honestly, I would say it is as good as we've been selling. So, man, well, Jordan, thanks so much for coming on for this episode. I always really enjoy our Star Trek retrospectives. I always appreciate, because you are more well versed in some of the lore of Star Trek. I'm getting there as I continue going through the shows, but I really, really appreciate your knowledge, and contributing to these retrospectives.
Oh, and I always enjoy being on here. It's an absolute delight, and I get to nerd out, and people don't look at me like I'm weird. So I'm all for it.
Oh, man. Well, we'll definitely be having you on again for, as we talk about more Star Trek content. And I'm sure, other franchises that we have in common that we have hinted at. So, so definitely everybody, like and subscribe to the show, share it with your friends, and on various social media, let us know what you think about Strange New World Season 2. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Give us the reasons why. And also maybe let us know what your favorite episode was. So, and stay tuned. There's always more episodes on the way, and we have some exciting interviews, retrospectives, and reviews coming soon.